What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So a couple weeks back, a few of you guys had asked me to talk about my guitars from the perspective of someone who is left-handed, and so that's what I'm going to do today. I've already done a comparison of both my current 7-string guitars and my current 8-string guitars, so this video isn't really going to be focused on direct sound comparison, but I am going to do some playing on them as I talk about them and yeah, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to do them to the best of my recollection, the order that I got these guitars in, and I'll talk about kind of why I got them, how I got them, all that sort of stuff, and what I like about them, what I don't like about them, all that. So we're going to start off with my Schecter Damien Elite 7. Obviously, as I've talked about this a little while, like in a previous video, I've done some pretty heavy customization of it, largely because I wasn't playing it anymore. Did that help? Somewhat. It still kind of sits there, but because this was one of the first guitars that I owned, it has some aesthetic, nostalgic value to me. So I guess let's go a little bit farther back first. Actually, I started playing guitar when I was in 10th grade, so I guess I was around 15 years old, and a friend of mine was selling a right-handed Washburn Strat copy. I bought it and I flipped the strings upside down so I could play it this way. I got into guitar because of Guitar Hero. I was like fairly good at Guitar Hero, and I was like, man, I played saxophone in the marching band, so I was like, shoot, I want to like play guitar for real. So I had that guitar, flipped the strings, played it left-handed, and man, the struggle was real. I didn't know anything about anything, but then I started coming across Guitar World magazines and all that sort of stuff. A whole bunch of old ones. I think they were at a library in my town or something, and like I just got a whole bunch of old freaking Guitar World magazines, and I started to learn about the world of guitars and equipment that way. My first amp, I had one of those little coaxial cable things, you know, like you would have on the old video games where it's like the red, white, and yellow cables. It was one end was that, and the other end was I forget what you call it, like whatever the headphone jack, a regular headphone jack cables, and then I ended up with a converter. I plugged that into here, plugged that into the guitar, and then I plugged the white and red freaking cables into the big screen TV that we had in our living room, and that was my amp for a long time. It was just a clean amp, and I remember pretty much the first thing, once somebody told me about tablature, I learned to play one, the very beginning of it. I have all of these little riff pieces that I know and don't know the full song. But yeah, anyway, so I went like that for maybe about a year. Then eventually someone bought me an actual left-handed Strat copy. It was very similar to the other guitar that I had, but it was left-handed. So it wasn't until I started college and I came into school on a Army ROTC scholarship that I started to, you know, have some actual money in my pocket. And I remember that one of the big purchases that I made from those little, it was really pennies, but at the time I was like, okay, I'm in school and I also have a job. I also have a little bit of income coming in. I saved up those few checks that I got per semester and I bought this guy. And to this day, I still really like the look of this guitar. It's really informed some of my aesthetic tastes over time. Particularly, this guitar has a carved top. See how it starts here, but then it kind of elevates a little bit, and then it's right there. I really like the look and the feel of that. It also has this cream binding right here, and a large part of what drew me to the guitar in the first place was these freaking inlays. Let's see if we can get these showing really well. Yeah, like stained cross inlays. I just thought that it was really, really cool looking, and I still do, to be honest. Now a lot of people would say that this is tacky or whatever. I disagree. I like the way that it looks. But ultimately, that's the thing. It's like you get what makes you happy. So, like I said, I want to approach this video as a left-handed person. So to anyone else who is out there who is left-handed, of course, we walk into freaking guitar centers and such, and they have like they'll typically have like one crappy like Ibanez Gio model or something that's in there, and we'll just like jam on that, and it won't feel great or anything, but it won't feel bad at the same time. It's just random little guitars. Point being, oftentimes as left-handed folks, we really don't get the chance to play the guitars that we want before we buy them, and that can kind of suck. So even now, yeah, I've owned 10 or 12 guitars, but it's like I can't. Trey Xavier at Gear Guys just made a video about this, talking about how, hey, the best thing you can do is to play a bunch of guitars from a certain brand or whatever to kind of inform your purchasing decisions. So for me, I think I've kind of just developed a mindset where I'm just not terribly picky about some of the things that you hear a lot of guitar players saying that they're picky about. And the major one that comes to mind is neck profile. So I do think that this guitar has one of the rounder and less flat profiles of the guitars that I own. But it's not bad, you know. I can still I don't think that it prevents me from playing anything that I normally play with any level of comfort. For me, the ability to play stuff generally comes to how well set up the guitar is, and this definitely is not my best set up guitar at the moment. Got a little bit of elevated action there. But anyway, other than that, yeah, adding the locking tuners and stuff up here helps me, you know, pick up this guitar sometimes. So it's like it's easier to change my strings and all that sort of stuff. I don't mind the tom bridge, and like I said, after I've added all this gold and stuff, I just really like the way that the guitar looks. But it's also, this guitar is, I want to say 26.5, is a 26.5 inch scale, something like that. It's shorter than my other 7 strings. My other 7s all start at, my other 7s are all 27 inches. This one's a little shorter, but it's also a little heavier, and I'm sure that has something to do with the fact that, okay, yeah, these are active pickups and there's a battery in here, but I always remember this guitar being a little heavier than some others. But again, it's one of my first guitars, so I don't really look at this guitar as being heavy. I just look at my other guitars as being somewhat lighter. But yeah, so I'm going to do a little bit of playing on this, and then we'll move over to the next guitar. I have my KSR series here, and I have the Arisfex Proto Drive, the Fort and Zool, and the KSR series running into Cubase, which is running into the STL Ignite Libra cab sim, and that's going to handle all our tones for today. So yeah, that's this guitar, and you're gonna see a few more Schecters throughout this video. Big love to, if you are left-handed watching this video, you're probably like me in that you love Schecter as a company, because they were one of the few ones back in the day who was offering us options like this. a bunch of the other left-handed guitars you would get, they were all like flat black finishes and all that, and there weren't very many options. But yeah, on to the next thing. Alright, next up we have my Blackjack A8. I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, my Schecter Blackjack A8. So yeah, like I said, another Schecter. This guitar, interestingly enough, I ordered it while I was deployed to Afghanistan in 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016. And I had it sent to my mom, and my mom, you know, she packaged it up and sent it over to me in Afghanistan. So my first assignment was a year-long tour in Afghanistan. And for whatever reason, I figured, oh, I'll be fine over there without a guitar for a year. That was not the case. I mean, I could have done it, but it was like, why? I say that, but then even after I got this guitar, no, never mind. Okay, so the guitar came over there. This was my first 8-string, and not only that, it had been, you know, a few months since I had touched the guitar. I'm in Afghanistan, like I said. It took me. So when I picked up that 7-string, like I said, it was one of the. I've been playing guitar for about 2 years before I got that Schecter 7-string that we just looked at. But regardless, I took to the 7-string very, very quickly. It felt supernatural to me. This, adding one more freaking string, entirely different story. This thing felt like a freaking huge alien in my hands, and I had a fairly rough time transitioning to 8 strings. Even to this day, I think that if given the option, I'll take a good 7-string over a good 8-string. Generally. That's not 100% true, but yeah. Generally speaking, I prefer 7-string. But anyway, that said, over time, I did start to acclimate to this guitar, and that led to me using this freaking metal-looking monster to play in a bunch of churches over there in Afghanistan. Well, not a bunch, but 2 churches in Afghanistan. I was the guitar player for them. So that was cool. In terms of what I've done to this guitar, the only thing that I did was change out the bridge pickup. So, following my tour in Afghanistan, I came to where I am now in Maryland, and I joined a band in the DC area, formerly called Colors. We're now called Idle Souls. Check us out. I'll have some links to us in the description. But yeah, this guitar came with a Seymour Duncan Nazgul pickup, and this is like a djenty band that we're in. And although the other guitar player uses a Agile 8-string that has at the time he used an Agile 8-string that has an EMG pickups, I felt like I wasn't cutting through at practice when I was using the Nazgul and this guitar. It's an 8-string band. So I switched out to, I'm sure everyone has heard about the freaking Lundgren M8 pickup that is famously used by Meshuggah. I switched out to that, and I found that I do enjoy this guitar a good bit better with this pickup as opposed to that one. I still have that pickup too. But yeah, the other day I compared this 8-string to an 8-string that we'll get to soon, and this guitar still has a whole bunch more bass response than that one does. And especially on an 8-string, that's not really what I'm looking for. It brings a good bit of bass to it just by the fact that, hey, it's an 8-string. But yeah, I like this guitar a lot. I like all my guitars a lot, to be honest. But at the same time, another one of the reasons I'm doing this video is because I'm thinking about selling a couple of these guitars, trading in a couple of these guitars to Guitar Center and picking up a new bass. But we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, this guitar also has lumen lace. Well, I don't know if they're lumen lace or not, but they are glow-in-the-dark side dots. And the one freaking live show that my band managed to play before our members kind of moved away. We're still active, but we're not playing live shows. It made me realize just how important these freaking side dots are if you're performing live. They're like, I didn't use this guitar. I used the guitar we're going to talk about in a minute, but that guitar also has lumen lace side dots, and it is 100% invaluable if you're playing these guitars live. Unless you're able to do all that stuff where you can play without looking at the guitar. That's not me. I need to at least be able to see where I'm at. But yeah, personally, maybe it is this guitar, but the M8 hasn't like really lived up to, you know, the hype. I play a bunch of Meshuggah stuff, not a bunch, a good few Meshuggah riffs and all that from time to time, and they're definitely one of my favorite bands and a sound that I would like to emulate. Maybe it's just this combination is a little bit too dark. I don't know, but it hasn't quite hit the mark of what I prefer for me. Although I like the guitar a lot. Okay, let's go to sounds. This guitar also has a coil split option. The guitar does sound cool and everything, but it just has a little bit more bass. It's a little bit more bass heavy than I would like. I forgot to kind of talk about the playability of the guitar. So I feel like the neck is slightly flatter on this guitar than on the 7-string we just looked at. But it's also a gloss neck. Now this is one of those things that, like I said, if you read on guitar forums or magazines and everything, people are like, oh, I hate gloss necks, da 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 da, cry, cry, cry. This one I do kind of understand. It's not a huge deal, whereas it's not going to take you from being a bad player to a good player if you change a gloss neck out. But at the same time, because it's gloss, your hand can sometimes get a little stuck if you like to slide your thumb or your hand back along the back of it, and that can kind of suck. It's not my favorite thing in the world. But again, I mean, it's nothing that I hate or can't deal with. Okay, I wasn't quite right. I remembered. So we're not on to my custom guitars yet. By this point, I had already ordered my custom guitar. My custom guitar was ordered before I finished that tour in Afghanistan. But it would take about a year after it was ordered for me to actually get it. So that would mean I was at my next duty station over here in Maryland, probably for 4 to 5 months before I got my guitar, something like that. But anyway, in the meantime, between coming home and so at that point I had my 2 Schecters, the 7-string and the 8-string. And I was like, I got on rondomusic.com. I had ordered guitars from Rondo Music before, but they were 6 strings and I did order 7-string as well. I'd ordered 2 guitars from Rondo Music before, but they weren't Agiles. It was a Douglas guitar and an SX guitar, which was a couple of other brands that they used to carry in left-handed. I made the mistake of getting both of those guitars with freaking Floyd Rose bridges. I'm not a terribly technical person in terms of like working on guitars or anything, and so far the two guitars that I've ordered that have Floyd Rose bridges have both fallen into states of disrepair from me freaking tinkering with them and then eventually giving up. Mine is sitting on the wall back there. I don't think I'm going to bring it out for this video because it's horribly out of tune, it's rusted through and all that sort of stuff. I may show it to you just so you can look at it. But yeah, I decided to order an actual Agile guitar from Rondo Music because that seems to be like their flagship brand, like the brand that Rondo Music is most known for. I saw this guy on the website and I was like, man, that is a really nice top. And to this day, I like this burl a lot. This was my first guitar that had a burl type top, a burl wood top. I like it a lot. The neck on it feels like a slightly, it's similar to the one on the Schecter 7-string. Like I said, that has a very kind of fat round neck. This feels like it has the same shape, but it's slightly flatter. I still wouldn't call this a very flat neck, but it is a little quote unquote faster than that Schecter neck, and it is satin. Both of those other guitars have gloss necks. Yes, both of those Schecters that we just talked about have gloss necks. This guitar has a satin neck on it. So yeah, I think I paid like $400 total for this guitar, shipped, something like that. And it's a really nice workhorse guitar. Still, I find this is one of my favorite sounding guitars. I did swap out. It came with their stock Cepheus pickups, but I traded it out for a Seymour Duncan Pegasus and Sentient set. So if you remember that the last guitar we talked about had a Nazgul Sentient set. The Nazgul I don't like, but the Pegasus I actually freaking love. It's very clear. It has a bunch of clarity, and actually I would like to get a Pegasus installed into an 8-string at some point. But yeah, I have no complaints about this guitar really. It's very simple. It doesn't have any coil split or anything like that, just the 3-way switch. Oh, the only complaint that I do have about it is that the switch sounds and feels like it might be a little cheap and like it might not survive freaking too many thousands of clicks back and forth, but that's kind of speculation at this point. But yeah, I'm going to play through this a little bit and yeah. So yeah, that's this guy. I like it a lot. Like I said, I really enjoy the way that the guitar sounds. I added these little fretboard stickers, as you can see. Again, some folks will call it tacky. Me, I do think it adds something to the visual appearance of this guitar. That said, this is also one of the guitars that I'm considering taking to Guitar Center to trade in for the bass that we're about to talk about. Speaking of basses, there's another guitar in between the my first custom intermission type thing. I'm not going to plug these two up, but I am going to show them to you. So this is my first bass that I did get directly after I got the Agile guitar that we just talked about. It's an Ibanez Gio bass, 6-string. The previous owner, I guess he didn't want people to realize that it was a Gio, which is their budget specific line. So he marked out the Gio part right here, and it just says Ibanez, which is fine with me. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really know how to. Now, this kind of underlines my point. I can kind of speak intelligently about my guitars because I've played through so many of them. But this is the only bass that I've ever owned. It works fine. I mean, I like it. I don't really know what to say about it. It has a very flat. So I will say this. Going back to those old Guitar World magazines that I had, every time that Ibanez is mentioned, you hear about their super flat necks and such. So this was the first Ibanez branded guitar, even though it's a bass, that I ever freaking had. And yeah, safe to say, it does have a rather flat freaking neck. It's a D-shaped neck, I suppose, is what I believe that this is. But regardless, it's really flat. It is flatter than the majority of my 8-string guitars. Yeah, for sure, easily. What does that add to the guitar? I mean, I guess it makes it a little easier to play. A flatter neck is definitely easier to play on than a fatter neck, but at the same time, again, it's not going to make you an extraordinary player if you're not an extraordinary player, so don't think that. And yeah, like I said, I told y'all about one of the, this was the second guitar that I purchased off of Rondo Music. A Douglas something or other that unfortunately I chose to have a Floyd Rose with. And yeah, it's fairly rusty. I have no idea where the arm is. I'm sure that this is set up just about as terribly as it can be. Which is unfortunate considering that I do have a freaking DiMarzio ionizer and a... Is it DiMarzio? I forget what it is. Freaking... Whatever brand freaking Toast and Bossy's ionizer was. And a liquefier in the neck. So 2 super cool pickups that I haven't really got the chance to play around with. And I'm considering swapping this out for a guitar that we're about to... Like pulling this out of here and putting it in a guitar that we're going to talk about soon. But yeah, I mean, it's not a bad guitar. This guitar also has a somewhat flat neck. I always felt like this guitar had a really flat neck. But again, after just putting down my Ibanez bass, yeah, it's flatter than the Schecters that we've talked about. But it's not really super flat. But alright, on to some good stuff. And here we are to talk about my XeN. This is the guitar that, shoot, a lot of folks associate me with. So yeah, like I said, I began the thoughts of doing a custom guitar in my head while I was in Afghanistan. It was probably 4 or so months into my tour in Afghanistan where I was like, you know, I'm making a little bit of extra money over here. I say extra, but I mean that was like the first real income that I had in my life anyway, so it was kind of interesting. I said, let's see about doing a custom guitar. And again, a lot of that is because I'm left-handed. We just don't have as many options for just walking into a store and picking up a certain guitar as right-handed folks do, obviously. So I was like, alright, what have I not had in a guitar yet that I do want to have? The main thing I think that was a multi-scale. And I didn't really realize how important that would be for me going forward at the moment. But yeah, that trying multi-scale was the biggest kind of like, oh, a light just went off moment for me in terms of like, okay, this is important to me in a guitar, especially on an 8-string. So yeah, the story of this guy. So I'm in a bunch of the guitar-related Facebook groups. Most importantly, I think, is Extended Range Guitar Nerds. And I did that thing where, Halo Guitars, the Halo Custom Shop, they have they're one of the first companies to have that really nice and robust online customizer tool where you can you can design your guitar and then ultimately they'll build it for you. I made some kind of crazy abomination of an 8-string guitar and had the nerve, the gall to share it to that Facebook page. And man, if I wasn't laughed pretty much off of the post, it was pretty funny. I still say that one day I'm going to freaking bite the bullet and order one of the guitars off that website, but as a bunch of folks have said, their quality was not the best at the time. I don't really know where they are right now, but they had a reputation for not making the best quality guitars. So after I posted that picture of my abomination, I'll see if I can find it for you and I'll show it here. I was contacted by at least 2 or 3 different freaking luthiers who have their own guitar companies. They're like, hey man, let me make something for you. And ultimately, the one who kind of won out was Mr. Eric Lovett of XeN Guitars. He told me about how they didn't upcharge for lefties and all that sort of stuff. That was kind of a big deal to me. I was like, okay, that's cool. Because on the Halo custom guitar site, of course, when you're doing your customizations, as soon as you hit lefty, I think it jumps up like $50 to $100 or something like that. So I appreciated that. So I'm just going to kind of jump back in my mind to the things that I asked for and whether it was a good choice or not. So again, at the time, I only had the 8. I may not have even had that first 8-string that I got sent to me in Afghanistan. But for sure, I'd only had between 1 to 2 nicer guitars, those first few Schecters. I didn't really know what I was asking for. So for instance, I said a flamed maple top. I didn't even have the wherewithal to Google what flamed maple looked like. My other guitar, the red Schecter, has a quilted maple top, and yeah, quilted maple for me is where it's at. I like the look of quilted maple and the burl stuff and all that. Flame is fine, it's cool, but most of them, it takes a very particular piece of flame maple to really pop. I do have one. This one is okay, it's not bad, but going back, I probably would have asked it for quilted maple on it. It's semi-hollow. He designed these the sound holes for me. So yeah, it doesn't really increase the acoustic resonance of the guitar too much. Well, I can't really tell, but it doesn't seem to. It's not. It's definitely not an acoustic guitar, you know. But it's still cool. I really like the way it looks, and that's essentially what it is for. What it's there for is for the aesthetics. Gold hardware. I really did want to do something with gold hardware. I chose the blue. Blue is my favorite color, but still, I chose that at the last minute. Maple fretboard. I did want something with the maple fretboard because prior to this, all my guitars have had dark fretboard woods. Now I've come to realize that, hey, I still prefer those dark fretboard woods. And the neck. So my guitars up until this point it was just one piece of wood back here, whereas this is a 3-piece maple, walnut, maple neck. I remember saying that I wanted a darker neck wood because, again, all my guitars up to this point have had maple necks. I wanted to try something darker. The compromise kind of ended up being this thick walnut strip right here. But Eric at the time personally cautioned me against having a dark wood here and a maple fretboard. Looking back, I would have insisted on the dark neck wood, but I can understand how he thought the way he did. But I don't mind at all the what is the word? the contrast that's provided by having a dark neck wood and a light fretboard wood. I think it looks really nice, which again you'll see on the guitar that I customized to kind of be the evil twin to this guitar. But yeah, my other 8-string that I had up to this point had a 28-inch scale. This one is close to 30. It's like 28.625 to 27 on the lower side. It's something like that. Don't quote me. But point being that this is at the longest side, this is my longest scale length guitar, other than a bass, obviously. And because my 7 strings had typically been 27 inches, I just assumed, oh, you need more than that for an 8-string. Not really, because like I said, my first 7-string guitar has a 26-point-something inch scale, and it's perfectly fine. I don't tune these guitars down. The lowest I go is a half step down, generally. So really, this scale length is more than I need, and it takes away from the form factor of the guitar. The guitar could be a little bit smaller, you know? Like, ultimately, this kind of works out to be about the same size as a 7-string guitar or even another 8-string guitar, for the most part. So yeah, that's something of a, I don't hold it against this guitar, but it's a bit of a dislike. The scale length is a little bit too long, and that's just me learning. Like, I had to do this to kind of learn what I like and what I don't like. Now, something that I can't give this guitar a pass on is 2 things. One is the input jack. So, I'm trying to get you to see it. It's right here. It's this deep recessed hole. So, the input jack is inside this hole, so you have to use certain types of guitar cables. It has to be, you can't use an angled cable in here. But if you'll see how far in there that this goes, kind of ate it. So it ends up not being terrible, but at the same time, I also bought these cables that have this spring thing here that expect to be bent, because when I sit my guitar like this, it bends the cable. And this is pretty much my preferred position when playing guitar. I used to sit like this, but especially on the headless guitars that are kind of meant to be able to sit like this, this is where you want to sit, and this input jack isn't really conducive to that. I'm pretty sure that Eric has adjusted these things based off my feedback since then. But yeah. The other thing that, again, I can't really excuse, this I think is just kind of a design oversight, but this next piece is just kind of laziness, I guess, and not on Eric's part. So XeN uses a few different builders to build their guitars, and my guitar was built by Fast Guitars in Canada, and I can't do much but like blame them for this. So this guitar is equipped with right-handed pots. So on a left-handed guitar, typically when you turn the knobs this way, you would expect that to be fully on. But because they're right-handed pots, I have to turn it backwards to get them to be all the way on. And it's a minor inconvenience, a minor annoyance, but it's just something like, hey, use left-handed pots. This guitar cost right around $3,000 something, a little bit more than that. And it's like, you couldn't give me left-handed pots? That kind of sucks, you know? Outside of that, I don't really have anything negative. I don't have anything negative to say. It's a pretty sick guitar. This is my least favorite headless bridge so far. I do like the single individual saddles, but the hip shot bridge isn't bad either. A lot of folks do use them. It's just not my preference. Oh, so talk about the neck profile. This neck feels a lot like my 7-string Schecter neck, in that it's kind of fat. It's not uncomfortably fat, again, but just because of the fact that it's an 8-string, you tend to not want it to be fat like that. Like it can get a little bit cumbersome, but again, nothing that sucks to play. It's just not as comfortable as it could be. But yeah, let's do some sounds. 27 frets. Forgot to mention that. Why does anyone need 27 frets? You kind of don't. But it does make it much easier to get to the 24th fret and such. So yeah, all of that said, it's a great sounding guitar. I really like the way it sounds, and I love it. I'm probably never going to part with it because, again, it's my first custom guitar. All right, and here we have my Agile Septor custom. So this was where I started kind of go a little bit crazy in terms of like just buying guitars. This guitar is one of the few that I purchased largely to satisfy an aesthetic desire, which was to have a white guitar with black trim on it. Man, I love the way this guitar looks. Like, you don't really get to appreciate like the black trim without looking at it kind of like this. I really, really, really like this aesthetic. Man, I was just about to talk about how I might consider selling this guitar one day. Maybe not. So yeah, the aesthetic choices, the aesthetics of a guitar are very important. They serve to inspire you just when you're playing it. I do notice that like the way a guitar feels, sounds, and looks kind of come together to inspire the different things that I write and play on each guitar. So for this guitar, I also went back to, hey, I have this, the Agile Septor has that carved top that I like from my Schecter Damien Elite 7. I really, really like carved tops. I really, really like the black binding on the white. This, you can't really see it too well, but this guitar actually has a burl maple top. Much like, again, Trey Xavier talked about in a couple of his videos, when you do the a white finish doesn't really lend itself well to figured tops showing out too well. So like these blue spots, that's where you would see like the nice burl. That's a maple burl. You would see that a lot better if I hadn't chose a white top, but ultimately I'm cool with it. I think it looks great. The neck on, so when you customize these guitars, they let you choose the neck profile, and if I remember correctly, this one's called a Slim D profile, and it is fairly slim. It's a little slimmer than that reject guitar that I showed you a minute ago. It's really nice. I'm a great fan of both the neck profile and the neck woods. So, like I told you a minute ago, I wanted to get into darker neck woods, and this isn't quite as dark as I would like, but it's a mahogany neck, and it just feels way better to me than like a maple neck. You can kind of try and get up close to your ear. You see those little dark spots? You can kind of feel them in the wood as you run your hand by it, and it's just the nicest thing. Again, a satin neck, and it just feels super cool. This guitar came with all black hardware. All I've changed out so far is to add these gold locking tuners. What are they? They are Spertzel locking tuners, and I like that a lot. If y'all haven't realized, I like the gold hardware thing. So also in this guitar, I have a Guitar Marie Orion bridge. I really like the way the Cepheus pickups sound. Oh, this guitar also has an ash body. I really like the way that the Cepheus pickups sounded in this guitar when it first came here. If you go back and check out my, I did a review of this guitar. The demo track that I did for there is one of the biggest, heaviest, meanest sounding tracks I ever done. And I'm still like kind of chasing that sound, and that was done with the stock pickups. But since then, getting this Orion pickup in here, I like it, but it's also not. I don't think it's very well suited for like the djenty stuff. I like to say that I write stuff like a poor man's Keith Miro when I play this guitar. Like it's like a death metal-y, a tight progressive death metal type of sound that I feel like pops out of this guitar now. No coil split or anything like that on this guitar as of right now. But Agile, the budget custom company, they did give me the correct left-handed pots I'm supposed to get. So yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of salty about how XeN did that. But yeah, let's go into some sounds. It even comes through playing it on clean. The guitar just sounds big. It's like it has a huge sound to it, which is again not super focused like you would want for gent sounds, which is fine. Like I do, part of the reason you want to have all these guitars is to have a spectrum in terms of the amount of sounds you can get out of them. But that said, I'm considering taking the ionizers out of that other guitar that I'm never going to play again, and either putting it into the bridge or putting it into the neck just to have it there. But yeah. Just a really big sounding guitar, and I like it a lot. Not going anywhere, Mike. Alright, back to the Schecters. Now here we have what is my favorite sounding and, well, definitely my favorite sounding 8-string, and it's one of my favorite looking and feeling guitars. Well, one of my favorite looking guitars for sure. So sound wise, I think this is just top of the line in terms of how I think they sound. In terms of looks, it's top 3 for sure. So, whoop. Again, like I said, carved top. I'm a great fan of the carved tops, and it also has a quilted maple freaking top on it. I really, really like the look of quilted maple. It's just like waves, and it is great. On top of that, this guitar went from being my least favorite to my favorite in terms of sound. Bare knuckle aftermath set. It came with an EMG, I forget what they are, but they're like the ones that are supposed to sound like PAF like. Did not work well for me in this guitar at all. These aftermaths though, it is ridiculous. This guitar is 100%. It just does it for me. I don't know if it's just the aftermaths or if it's the combination of the aftermaths working very well in this guitar, but it is absolutely awesome and I love it. Neck profile. So this guitar has I believe it's a satin neck. It feels satin. Whoop. It's kind of like a glossy satin type thing. It's weird. But yeah, feels pretty good. It's definitely flatter than my other Schecter 8-string, which is kind of weird to me, but it's very comfortable. Yeah, it has locking tuners, 28-inch scale. So the more I play this guitar, the more I wish that it had it was multi-scale. So if this was a multi-scale guitar, as much as I would hate to, down my custom guitars, this would be the best guitar that I own, in my opinion. It's awesome. Period. I do have the coil split options here. So the one downside, it has, and this is my own fault, but I'm cool with it. I made the decision to make it this way, so it's all right. So when I got these pickups installed, I also had him install a coil split, but the only pot he had on hand for that was a right-handed pot. So for this one, these two are normal left-handed pots and are full going. They're turned up by going this way, but the tone knob is a right-handed pot and it's turned up by going this way. But yeah, let me show you why I think this guitar sounds so freaking good. Super satisfying. Again, I wish that this guitar was multi-scale, and it's making me want to just get another aftermath set and put it in the guitar. Well, probably in the XeN, to be honest, but that comes with its own set of challenges. But alright, next. Alright, and here we have my baby. This is undoubtedly my favorite guitar, and I've already done a review on this guitar, so you can go check that out. What's the story of this guy? So this is another guitar that I purchased for aesthetic reasons, largely. Look at that. I saw this finish. and this top, and I was like, it's left-handed. Like, I need to own this guitar. And to this day, in my opinion, there are very few guitars. I think that I own one of the most beautiful guitars in existence. I am absolutely freaking in love with this guitar. It's just nearly perfect in every way. I have nothing that I would change about it, except for maybe the price. But, you know, ultimately, it's fair, right? I purchased this guitar, like I said, from Troy Darlington over at Wicked Guitars in Australia. He's a really nice guy, and he's actually the one who customized this guitar. So he custom orders some guitars and then sells them through his shop. This is absolutely just an immaculate piece of freaking engineering and art and all of that, and I just love it. It sounds great. It looks great. It's super comfortable. This guitar is super light. It's my desert island guitar, 100%. I love it. I just love it. Again, bare knuckles. So I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here in that my bare knuckle equipped guitars are my favorite sounding ones, largely because, hey, I like to do the djenty things, and they cater to that. This has a Warpig set in it, and I was a little nervous thinking, oh, they advertised the Warpig as being bass heavy, which it is, but it's not overbearing, and I think it works very well on a 7-string. It's still very articulate, and I like it a lot. I don't think there's too much else to say about it other than, yes, although this is my favorite guitar, the guitar we're about to talk about is the guitar that I recommend that people buy if they're concerned with, you know, cost or anything. But yeah, let's get into sounds. Like I said, I already reviewed this guitar somewhere on my channel if you want to go look for that. Ridiculous. It's super satisfying, and whenever I'm like in a rut where I'm struggling to write something, I pick up this guitar, and 9 times out of 10 I end up where I was trying to be and didn't even know I didn't know where I was going, and this guitar gets me back on track. This is one of those once in a lifetime freaking opportunity guitars, and I hope that I never have to part with it. I love it. I love it. And finally, we have my Blackat HDA8. So, interesting story about this one. I purchased my Skervesen from Troy over at Wicked Guitars. I also purchased this guitar from Troy with Guitars, but it was through a run that his store did in conjunction with Blackat Guitars. I think most of us had heard of Blackat Guitars because I think Ola England was playing them for a little while. Excuse me, I believe Keith Miro was playing them for a little while. Fred Brum definitely has one or two of them. But they're not like the first thing that most folks think about when they think about a custom guitar. They definitely weren't the first thing that I thought about, but now they're one of the only ones that I think about because they're still making. This is two people, Tomek, and maybe they have more now. I'm not going to say that for sure, but I know it's Tomek, and he had another guy in his workshop as well, and they're just cranking out these super freaking awesome guitars. This guitar, I believe that it is just as on par with. It would be on par with my Skervesen, if I had a different pickups in here. I don't hate these pickups. I think that they're fine pickups. They're good, but they strike me as being good for everything. If I had a bare knuckle set in here, like I wish that I had a bare knuckle aftermath set in here. I probably will never do it once again because I like to have a range of options available to me, and it's nice to have the fluences in here. But I truly believe that if I had a bare knuckle aftermath or something set in here, this guitar would be just as amazing to me as my Skervesen is. Which makes it even more so amazing because this guitar costs right around $1,000 less than the Skervesen did. Folks, I think that a few years ago Skervesen had this price increase. And although, I mean, I can't complain too much because at the end of the day, that is my favorite guitar. I love it to death. It's very well built. It's wonderful. But is it $1,000, objectively $1,000 better than this guitar? Absolutely not. I believe that Tomek and company are making guitars right at the sweet spot, and I hope that they don't increase their prices or anything anytime soon. Because right now, although, yeah, this is a super amazing instrument, and it's, yeah, like this and my Skervesen are my best guitars. I don't think that it's really a secret that the Skervesen prices are just up there because, hey, people will pay it. I think that this guitar is worth just as much as the Skervesen, but it's like they're being made at a very fair price, you know? And to me, that is another thing that really... So that's why, right now, when people ask me what custom guitar brand should I buy, I don't say Skervesen, I say Blackat. They're selling guitars they're building guitars at amazing prices. It's just wonderful. But yeah, also, so scale length. This guitar it's made other 8 strings hard for me to play. It's a 27, it's the same scale length as the Skervesen. So 27 on the longer side, and then it goes down to 25.5, I believe, on this side. Like I said, I thought, 8 strings need to be 28 inches or longer. No, they don't. This, to me, is the sweet spot. If you're not tuning down more than like a half step, which is what I do, this is very much a sweet spot. It's wonderful. And again, I said earlier that Eric at XeN had cautioned me against using a darker neck wood with a maple fretboard wood. I very much did that here. This is Wingate with maple stripes. It looks freaking awesome. Partially because it has the maple stripes going through here. To go back to the maple fretboard here. Aesthetically, it just works. And again, a quilted maple fretboard at that. A flame maple fretboard. To go along with this very nice freaking flame maple top. This is what a flame maple top, should freaking look like. Not that the XeN one is bad, but this one it really pops. I would still kind of prefer a quilted maple one, but I got this to kind of serve as the counterpart to the XeN, and I'm very happy with it. Black limbo body. It's really nice. Okay, let's go into some sound clips real quick. Oh yeah, just want to quickly mention, this guitar came with the freaking Fishman charging pack thing. This is easily the most value that I've got out of guitar, period. Outside of maybe the Schecter that I only paid $500 for, because I got it used. But overall, I think this really takes the cake, and my next guitar will either be a daggone, what is it called? A Strandberg, because I want to try that neck, or outside of that, I'm just buying more Blackat. And that's why I bought this guitar, by the way. I wanted to have a platform to try the Fishman influences in. So ultimately for me, I'm like, okay, they're fine, but they're not really for me. Although I like them in this application. See you guys later.